Well, good afternoon again, and on behalf of the Virtual Lab support team, I'd like to welcome you all to today's demonstration of the Virtual Lab. I'm John Schattel, and I have Ken Sperow here with me. He's the Virtual Lab technical lead, and he'll be assisting with the Virtual Lab presentation, and he'll give a portion of the demo later on. A couple of administrative items to get out of the way as we get underway here. The first is to let you know that we'll be recording today's session. We'll post it to YouTube, and this will give you a chance to go back later on and review it if you'd like to do so. We should have it up by tomorrow, and there'll be an email that arrives in your inbox later in the afternoon, I believe, that will give you the links to both the presentation slides and the YouTube video. The other item is to mention that to prevent some background noise, we've muted everybody. So when we get to the question and answer phase, if you'll use the GoToMeeting raise your hand feature, that will allow me to identify those who want to ask questions, and then I'll unmute you and give you a chance to do that. And if you're unable to use the GoToMeeting or you don't have an audio connection, for example, feel free to use the chat/question areas to enter your question. Okay, so before I get into the formal presentation, Ken and I would like to get some sense of just what your experience level is with the Virtual Lab so that we can perhaps tailor the presentation a bit to meet your needs. So I'm going to launch a poll question, and if you would take a second or two to give me your feedback on where you view your skill level in using the VLab. And while we wait for folks to chime in, I did want to mention that this demonstration is geared towards the entire National Weather Service. So if you know someone who might benefit from learning more about the Virtual Lab, when you get that link to the demo, you might want to encourage them to get online and go ahead and watch it, so they'll get a good idea of what the Virtual Lab is all about. Okay, another second or two, and we'll close out the poll. All right, closing the poll now. So it looks like about 20% of attendees, let me share that with everybody so you can see it as well. About 20% of the attendees today have never visited the Virtual Lab, so we'll call those the rookies. And 38% have been there once or twice, so we're looking at about 60% of folks who are pretty new to the Virtual Lab. So that's good. And then a few people, maybe around 35%, have come there occasionally. So you guys may virtually be experts by now. All righty. Well, let me hide that. Back to the slides here. So we're going to do this presentation in two stages. I'll give you an orientation or overview of the Virtual Lab, and then Ken Sperow will follow up with the actual demonstration of the tool and how it's used. So let's go on with our next slide. There we go. So for the 20% folks who may not have even sort of heard of the Virtual Lab before, it's probably good that we start off with sort of a definition of what it is. And so in this slide, we show that it's a set of services and an IT framework which enables NOAA staff and our partners to share ideas, to collaborate, to engage in software development, and to conduct applied research. And for those who have never actually been, what you would see when you go to the Virtual Lab is a web page or a website, and it has a number of tools and so forth that are useful in making things and doing work within the National Weather Service. But when we get down to the bottom line, we can summarize the Virtual Lab as simply a set of tools that help make your job easier. And so we hope by the end of this presentation you'll have enough knowledge to agree with that concept. All right, so it's, for people who aren't familiar with the Virtual Lab, it's kind of useful to go back and see how long it's been around. And basically go back all the way to February 2012, so we're talking almost 5 years ago. There was a team established to basically come up with this concept of a Virtual Lab. They did their work, and within a year, there was an initial operating capability out there that folks could use. After a couple of years, we realized that the VLab had grown in terms of users and the amount of usage it was receiving, and we realized we needed a place where we could grow into the future. And so we, in December of 2014, rehosted the Virtual Lab into the NOAA's premier internet hosting site, IDP, and that's where it currently resides. So we have plenty of room to grow as we need to do so. And so here we are, 5 years after the beginning. VLab has matured and is ready for folks to make full use of it. I mentioned growth. The slide here shows on the left number of users. So in the blue line, you can see what we call our collaborators. These are the people who use the virtual lab to work with each other. And we have roughly 4,000 folks in that category. In red, you can see we have another category called developers, and that's short for software developers. And so these are folks who are working on NOAA's software, which of course represents our intellectual property. To the right, we have the number of communities, which I briefly mentioned, shown in blue. You can see there's roughly 200 or so of those around, and we'll learn more about what they are and what they contain in a bit. And then we have about 400 software development projects. And you can see that both of these have shown growth over the time, but software development projects have certainly shot up in recent times. So lots of growth. Another way to look at the growth is through our Google Analytics. And as you can see in the dark blue line in this graph above, which represents the number of sessions, since early 2014, there's been a steady growth in the number of sessions that the virtual lab hosts each day / each month. But if we take those sessions and we look at the amount of time each session runs, so in this case, about 10 minutes or so, and we multiply that by the number of sessions over this period of time, we come up with roughly 27,000 staff hours spent in the virtual lab, helping them to do their job better and accomplish the mission of the National Weather Service. So clearly there's been growth, and growth in how its impact on the National Weather Service mission. So we talked a little bit about these communities and software development, and so I thought I'd quickly break out the way the virtual lab is sort of hosted or sort of organized, the two facets, let's call it, of the virtual lab. On the left side, we have what are called communities, which is another set of tools that help you do your job. We have document libraries for storing documents. They can be viewed and uploaded and downloaded and sort of organized. We have web content, which is basically like web pages for getting information out, displaying information. We have forums, which can help you dialogue with other people through a sort of an email vehicle. We have wikis that can allow you to sort of work collaboratively to develop some content or document. And then we have blogs, which allow experts within a community to present that information to members of the community for review and to hopefully help them do their jobs better. So then the other half of the virtual lab, we'll call it, deals with what we call projects. We have a number of applications that make that job possible. The first one is Redmine. It's used for issue tracking, but it also can be used for real basic project management. So if you have a project in your office that just you need to track milestones and tasks and that sort of thing, even requirements definition, then Redmine is a tool that will help orchestrate that process. And if you are involved in software development, then obviously the issue tracking is things you need to do to change your code or bugs or things of that nature. And those involved in software development will use our Garrett application to do what's called code reviews, which helps bring the power of everybody in the team to take a look at code to make sure that what winds up being the final product is of high quality. And that finished product and the software that's being developed needs a place to be housed. We have two applications, one Subversion, the other Git, which allow you to have a place to store your software, a repository, and these allow for obviously versioning of the files and so forth. And then to sort of tie it all together, we have Jenkins, which is a tool used for continuous integration, so that as software needs to be quality controlled, or if there are steps in a process that need to be taken to, say, build the software, this tool will allow you to accomplish that and make that job easy and productive. So I mentioned communities, and I thought I would give you a sort of a sense of what's in there. This by no means is the entire list, obviously, but there's over 200 of them in the VLab at current time. But as you look down the list, you'll see perhaps some familiar names to what you do. For example, if you were a Sioux, there's a Central Region Sioux community. If you were into the field activities, the National Blend of Models might be something that either you're involved in or are aware of. We have the AWIPS community over on the right side. And then any major system within the National Weather Service has a presence in the virtual lab. So we also have projects where software is being developed. Again, you'll see some familiar names, like there's AWIPS at the top, the National Blend of Models. And so you see that the community also has a project. So for these two efforts, there's both a community and a project. But sometimes they're just a project for a particular effort, and then sometimes they're just a community. So the virtual lab is flexible in meeting the needs of our users. So we've seen what's in the virtual lab, and you may be asking yourself, well, geez, if I wanted to add a community or a project, kind of how would that go about? And so this brings us to what we call our key concept. And the idea here is that because, as you noted, there's so many users and lots of projects and lots of communities, the virtual lab support team just really wouldn't be capable of doing that all by themselves. So what happens is we will set up the community for you, we will create your project, and then at that point we turn the keys over to you to sort of build out and to use those tools to your benefit. The good news is that the virtual lab support team stands there ready to assist you at all phases of your virtual lab experience. So if you have questions on how to do something or want to run some things by us, how you might accomplish something in general, you can meet with us or email us. The virtual lab team is there, support team is there for your assistance. So we have a couple things we wanted to make sure that you're aware of. We call these VLab facts. The first one is that the virtual lab support team has the virtual lab has a support staff, and that's the virtual lab support team. And that comes out of the Meteorological Development Laboratory, which is part of the Science and Technology Integration Office. And so there's plenty of folks available to make sure this tool continues to evolve and grow as the needs arise. We also have the official source code for AWIPS 2 in the VLab. So one of the premier activities within the virtual lab, within the National Weather Service, is found in the virtual lab. So very important kind of support we're providing. The AWIPS community is the official source of AWIPS documentation. So if you're interested in what's going on with the AWIPS project, then the virtual lab is where you go to find that out. And then, of course, it's also worth pointing out that all folks who are developing code to enhance or improve the AWIPS software are now using the virtual lab to accomplish that task. And then finally, I guess it's worth mentioning that we have this ability now within the virtual lab that allows folks in the offices, 123 forecast offices across the country, to learn information about the various products and different tools on D2D. So we're now providing what we call the integrated reference, which allows folks to basically improve the way they do their forecasting mission right there from their workstation by leveraging the abilities of the virtual lab. So you may be thinking, geez, this sounds kind of interesting, but geez, what would I do with it? So I've got a list of things that potentially represent things that you could possibly use the virtual lab for. And the first thing you might want to do is simply learn what's going on within the National Weather Service. We're a large organization, there's a lot going on, and the virtual lab brings that all together in a central location for you to explore and to learn about. You can join communities to further understand what's going on, or just look at the list of communities and projects. You can also share information, so if you've got something going on that you think other people need to know about, then the virtual lab may represent a beautiful vehicle for getting that out there where National Weather Service employees can easily access it. You also might want to work through issues of some sort. Maybe you've got an idea and a topic that you think other people would want to contribute to, so you could engage in a dialogue through these forums, using email back and forth, and that dialogue would be captured within the virtual lab and made available at any time in the future that you may want to go back and reference it in a single nice location and in a searchable way. You may also want to work to improve or develop a product or service. Virtual Lab can bring that all together and allow you to assemble a team to help you accomplish that. We also have the ability to get people's ideas. So if you've been sitting there thinking, gosh, I have this neat idea, what do I do with it? Well, the Virtual Lab has tools that allow you to both write that, bring that idea to something that can be reviewed, and then ultimately maybe turn into some project or something down the road. So Ken will probably show you something about how you can enter your idea. We also have the ability to make things visible for folks. So you've got this thing you've been working on, and it'll WFO say, you think it's great. Well, what better thing to do with it than to get it out there so that other people can see it and maybe give you some feedback on it and help improve it. So the VLab is a perfect tool for doing that. You can share training material, lots of training materials developed, and the VLab would be a great way to make that available to people. As we talked about code development, you may have some software you developed and you just want to give it out and let people mess around with it and use it and exploit it. So the VLab makes that perfectly easy to do using sort of state-of-the-art, well-understood tools that both inside and outside of the National Weather Service would be understood and appreciated. You can also work with a team of folks. Our software is perfectly designed to make that job easy and efficient so that you're developing high-quality code and leveraging all the skills of your developing resources. You can also manage, I mentioned, tasks and milestones and requirements. So some of the forecast offices have embraced this aspect of it, and they sort of manage their station operation. So what do they need to do? When do they need to do it by? And who's going to do it? VLab can assist you with that. Find someone with certain skills. So we have the ability to bring people together, and they can self-identify what they're good at, and then you can go in and search that. And Ken will probably show you how that's accomplished. And finally, we all have in our various business activities, whatnot, the projects we're working on, stuff may be spread out all over the place. There may be websites that you're interested in. There may be email threads. There may be, files and documents and so forth. Well, the VLab is perfect at organizing all this information into a single location, and it does this as a portal and aggregates all that information so that you can search it and you can easily find it and share it with others. Okay, well, with that introduction, I will now turn it over to Ken Sperow, who will show you a little bit about the VLab.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So you should be seeing my screen now with the Virtual Lab Collaboration Services on it. John, can you confirm that, please?
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to first show you how you log into Virtual Lab, and so I'm going to sign out first so that, basically, you have a couple different options. If you're a normal NOAA user, which I expect most everyone on this call would be, or a NOAA affiliate, as long as you have NOAA credentials and a NOAA Gmail account, then you can actually, if you're logged into Google through the same browser, you can come here and the very first time you click on this Google button, and that will actually log you directly in. I want to mention, because probably many people here might work from an AWIPS workstation within the AWIPS network, and in those situations, the Google single sign-on does not work. The reason for that is that there is no access within the AWIPS network to Google services, and we have to validate that. So that doesn't work. So in that case, you come over here to the screen name, fill in, it'd be your first name, last name, so your NOAA LDAP ID, minus @noaa.gov, and then provide your password and sign in that way. And we do also support external partner access and I'll mention this and show you later, but there's a way for you as a NOAA user to say, oh, I need this university partner or someone like that to be able to participate in my community. And so that can be requested. So you're at this point, you can just click on that, and it'll log you right in. So that's nice, so you don't have to type your credentials. That is enabled on collaboration services, which we're looking at now. This is a community side of it. So we've covered the login. Now that we've got that, probably one of the first things you want to do is join some communities that exist within VLab already. As John mentioned, there are about 200 of these. I think last I checked, it was right around 170 of them are open or restricted communities, meaning that you're going to see them. So right dead center, you've got this join an existing community. I like to use this because it's going to launch it and give you the full display if desired. And so you're going to come here. I'm going to make it big. And so from this, you can peruse the communities that are available. And those that say join mean that those are ones that you could just join right now, and it's an open community. So if you're logged into VLab, you can join it. If it says request membership, what that means is the community has been set up in a way that the community owners have to approve your request, and so you basically click on this. It then asks you for a reason for joining. You submit it. The community owners are going to get an email and a notification in the application, and then they have to go through and approve or deny that request, and you would be notified via email. So, there's also private communities within VLab, and I'm going to get into what a community is in a moment. But so basically, you can peruse. Now, as the number of communities continues to increase, that's going to become more of a daunting task. And so we're actually refactoring and looking at ways right now that we can filter this list, perhaps through by organization, also through tagging and categories. You can actually add tags to your communities when you create them. And we're looking at adding the categories as well and having different classes of categories so that then there would be like tag navigation or a tag cloud that would give an indication. You could click on the tags that are of interest to you and it would filter this list down. It's not quite there yet, but you do have a way of searching. So if I want to search for communities dealing with AWIPS, I can do that. It's searching over the name of the community as well as the description. So, so you can see this one here. It's not mentioning AWIPS within the name, or the community name, but it is within the description there. So anyway, ones that say leave, those are communities that I'm already a member of. So, so that's all you have to do. So if I wanted to, for example, join the tropical AWIPS information, I can join that. It's going to tell you how many members there are. And then it switches to leave. So what's it mean now that you know, I'm a member of this community? Well, so the way that VLab is structured in collaboration services is that the one area that I find very helpful is this My Communities drop-down up here in the upper right in this talk bar. And so these are all the different communities that you're a member of. Now you'll notice that some of these communities are listed twice. There's an eyeball and an eyeball with a slash through it. Communities can be set up so that they have both private and public pages. If they're public pages, they can be configured so that they could actually be made available so you don't even have to log into VLab to see the content. Now that's been done in many different locations. For example, the AWIPS integrated reference material, they, you know, ACLO and the Warning Decision Training Division decided that they wanted that all to be public content so that you as a forecaster, if you are a forecaster, can get to that content from AWIPS without having to ever log in to VLab to be able to see it. And so that's an important point. So the reason for this is that in this community, for example, the Google Analytics and NOAA and NWS, that community, they've decided that they have some content that they want to share with everyone, and then other content that they want to only share with the community members. So that's possible. So anyway, you go down here, you can then click on the community. So if I wanted to go to the IRIS community, I could click on that, and then it would take me to that community set of pages. I want to show you there are a couple other ways to get to it as well. You can, so let me close that. You come over here on the left, the default landing page has My Communities here. And you see the members, you see the name, you click on one of these. So if I want to go to this Central Region Sioux community, it's going to launch a new tab. So the drop-down I prefer because it's not launching more tabs, it's all within the same tab. But you know, either one is fine. So, anyway, there's a lot of content within the Central Region Sioux community. But let me walk you through a couple of the communities so you get an idea. Before I do that, just really quickly to orient yourself, so I've already talked about My Communities. There's a help link up here at the top. That's important. So if you want to get to our user's guide, or if you just need assistance and say, well, how can I do something? So we have many different ways in which you can get help. One is that, as John indicated, we've got the Virtual Lab support team. And so the Virtual Lab support team, you know, we're available during normal business hours. And if you've got a question and you just can't figure it out, or if you need assistance, you can send us an email at VLabAdmin@noaa.gov, and someone will get back to you quickly. If you've got some feedback you want to provide us, you know, just fill out this form, send it to us. If you've got an idea on a way to improve the VLab, so not just feedback, but you think you've got a good, solid idea on how to improve it, you can submit that through the VLab improvement team. And the VLab improvement team is made up of representatives from each of the regions, as well as the different line offices within NOAA. So we also have a troubleshooting forum that you can go to and look through. And if you're wanting a demo like this, but maybe more specific to a particular area for a smaller group of people, you can request a demo of us. And then lastly, you can request consultation. Really the only difference between a consultation and a demo is consultation is probably going to be a bit more technical, and you want to accomplish something and you need some help on making that happen. One of the things with, you know, having over 200 communities, we've been doing this for a number of years. We've got a fair bit of experience you know, addressing the different needs of people. So that's the help. And across the top here, these are different pages within this community. It's currently supporting a second tier of pages as well. In the future, we'll have 2 or 3 levels of pages, sub-pages. And so, you know, within this community here, it's kind of representative. And so we have, you know, like if you wanted to get into find out information about VLab development services, you would come over here, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. There's also the projects registry, which is a NOAA thing. But I just wanted to give you a sense for what these are. And these X's, they're not going to appear for you. So I'm going to, this little button up here, if you're ever a site administrator or a community administrator, you have your own community within VLab, you're going to have more abilities within it to drag and drop, move the page around, get it looking the way you want. But oftentimes, like in a demo, that can be a bit confusing. So you can click on that button there to remove the edit controls, and then it's going to look like it does for everyone else. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple different communities. And so, before I did that, I wanted to show you search too, because search is another important component. And that's really one of the major strengths of VLab, is that everything within VLab is indexed. That includes documents, that includes wikis, forum messages, and we're going to get into all this. But so there's a global search at the top, and I can search within here. So if I want to search for AWIPs over everything within VLab, all the communities I'm a member of, I can do so. And it's going to pull this right up. We've just recently changed out the search implementation under the hood. It's using something called Elasticsearch. It really doesn't matter, but it's much faster than it used to be, so that's a good thing. So I searched for AWIPs. What it does then is it breaks it down by communities. So there's a facets community. If I wanted to know references to AWIPs within the facets community, I could restrict that further. If I wanted to go to the weather star, that's a satellite type community. There's another GOES-R, Data Operations Support Team, Central Region Sioux. So you can see there's a lot here. There's also, so you can filter that down by just clicking on it. It then restricts the contents to that particular community. You can also come down further and restrict it more by asset type. So if I only wanted to see documents or users that mention AWIPs within their list, you could do that. And then these are the tags that people have used when they upload the content. So, so I want to see the doc. So that Tom is a person, so he's on our team, and he's mentioned AWIPs, and he also apparently mentioned that tag that I clicked on lightning to, so that restricted it. So anyway, you can really dive down into that. You can also search, oftentimes you're within a community, and you only want to search over that particular community, and so click on this community, and that gives you that ability. So, so now we've touched on searching, navigation aids. Let me show you one other thing that I didn't talk about. So if we go back out, if you ever want to get to the main VirtualLab landing page, click on VirtualLab here. That'll take you right to it. That's the easiest thing I've found to get back to that. So the only other thing that's useful, or one other thing that's useful, is that there's a breadcrumb here. Sometimes that's very useful in finding out where you are and getting back to a particular location. So let's explore a community and take a look at that. So I'm going to go to actually, let's stick with it. So I've talked about help. So VLab user use cases, and so one thing that you can do is, contribute to improving NWS products and services. So this is something where the National Blend of Models is an excellent community that focuses on that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the National Blend of Models. And the National Blend of Models, they really, their community is pretty straightforward. The core of what they're doing is that they're using a forum to communicate information between the core users within the National Blend of Models. And so they've got a couple different pages here, the home page, forums page, and then they've got a link to a Google Drive, and then they've got frequently asked questions and issues. So within here, if I want to go to the forum, and it's on the front page too, a forum, and this is something all communities can take advantage of, is kind of like a list server. It's a message board, and so the idea is that they have one category here called Feedback on National Blend of Models, and this allows people out in the field that are seeing the National Blend of Models to provide feedback. And so we'll see if this is a good option. So this one wasn't great because they didn't use an image, just from an illustration point of view. But basically, it allows someone either to come into the VirtualLab and post their entry directly, but more often than not, what's happening is that there's a dedicated email address to this forum, and so you can send an email, include attachments, and then that's then distributed to anyone that is subscribed to this forum category. And so I'm subscribed to it, so I get the emails If you weren't, it would say subscribe here. You just click on it, and then you're going to get emails for any time that things are being sent. So let me see if there's another one that actually shows an image too. Oh, let me go back. I should have looked at this beforehand. Well, that one's not very interesting either. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so here's an example. So this is where someone's done a screen capture, and then they attach that, and then it really helps to, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and so this is a case where you can attach those images, you can point things out, animate it. I've seen people use animated GIFs, so it can be very powerful in conveying either deficiencies or perhaps something's working really well and you want to highlight it, and that's what they've done here within the National Blend of Models. So this is a pretty simple use. They don't have a whole lot of content here, but it's highly effective. So that's National Blend of Models. And there's the probabilistic snow experiment is another example where they've used the forums as a means for communicating, on improving NWS product and services. RTMA, URMA are others. In other cases, you might be developing new products or services, and so let's take a look at another one. There's one called the Forecast Builder, and so let's take a look at that. Actually, I don't know if I'm a member of that community, so if I'm not, let's go back to the main community. We'll do a search for all available communities, and then forecast. Okay, forecast. Maybe the Forecast Builder is private. I'll have to look. So, oh, it's part of the Central Region Sioux. So, sorry, so let me go there. So I'll come up here, my communities, Central Region Sioux, and go to their private pages. And then there's a Forecast Builder, and I'm trying to remember exactly where that was. I looked at that a couple weeks ago. Forecast links. I probably chose a bad one because I'm not remembering where exactly it was. Here, let's try. Now we'll really test it out. So I'm going to say this organization and Forecast Builder. Okay. There we go. So this is a case where they've created this particular service, and so there's a lot of information about it here, and so you can go to that, and they've got other links that you can get to from that. So the one thing I haven't covered is that within the communities, I've talked about the forums, but there's also other types of content that you can publish. And so let's go to one of the other communities and take a look at that. So, so I'll go to the Tower S community, which is a satellite type community. Tower. And you might see that this community has a slightly different look and feel, and they've gone in and actually modified some of the CSS for it, and that's why it looks a bit different than others. So you'll notice when I switch here, it's different. So this is like Joe Zajic, I think he's in charge of this community, and they've been very, they've been doing a lot. They've been creating RPMs, and we're working with the AWIPS program for ways to get those RPMs out to the field. That's going to go through an RC type process. But they have a huge amount of documentation within their site, and they're using forums. They're also updating like the status of the particular satellites through web services through this community too. So there's a tremendous amount of information within this particular community, and so they've really done a lot, and they're using a combination of the wikis as well as web content. There's a web content management system within VirtualLab Collaboration Services. It allows you to use WYSIWYG editors to update things, and so so they've done a tremendous amount of work within here. Let me go to the data flow. I guess it was under status. So basically their focus has been on getting the sites ready for GOES-R, and so they're basically putting together documentation and RPMs so that within AWIPS you can display those new products and services coming from the satellite. And so they've done all of this work within VLab. This is an example of where they're actually showing the processing status of the Raptor East through VLab, and so this is being updated, I think, like almost it's actually more often, I think it's several times an hour. So anyway, this is an example where they're using web content, and a WYSIWYG editor wouldn't be a good one to show you. But anyway, so that's that. So let me jump to the AWIPS community real quick, and I'll show you within here how you use, if you're a community owner, let's say you've got some static content that you want to describe, what's within your community, and that's what they've done here, welcoming you. If you want to change the wording or something like that, that's using the web content management system. Obviously, you can go right into the website as long as you have to the community, as long as you have the necessary roles, and you can edit that content. It shows up in a what you see is what you get editor. You can make the changes and then publish that, and those are changed immediately. There are versions, so if someone makes a mistake or something, you can revert back to a previous version. There's also the ability to push something out in the future, so you can make a change and say, oh, well, don't make this live until tomorrow, when that's when we want it to be shown. There's an announcements portlet that can be used. This shows all the announcements. This is a question we oftentimes get, but the announcement portlet shows the announcements that are relevant to you. It's not necessarily the announcements that are relevant to this particular community, so that can be confusing for people. So for example, we're seeing in here, welcome to the Weather Archive and Visualization Environment, VLab community. Well, that's a bit confusing because we're in the AWIPS community. That's because this is for me, and any community that I'm a member of, if they use an announcement, it's going to show up in my announcements portlets throughout the site. And that's the only portlet that behaves that way, but it does. There are ways to use portlets. Each of these areas is a portlet. So this AWIPS community activity, it's showing the latest activity within the community itself. What have they done? And so this community is very active. It's a great place to go in terms of governance. How do you do certain things? What's the schedule look like? As John mentioned, all of AWIPS is using the VLab for their code. In order to get code into AWIPS, it has to go through the VirtualLab. So this is the one-stop place to go to find out information in terms of code check-in dates, when are things going to be available out to the sites, all of that sort of information. So anyway, So I've talked about wikis, I've talked about web content. There's also the ability to have blogs. Blogs are more of a way, so if you've got an expert in your community, you want to give people an opportunity to post things, details about things they're working on that the community as a whole might be interested in. A blog is an excellent way of doing that. We do that internally. We've got a virtual lab support team community that's private. We use it, and so like I or some of the other team members will put out a blog, and then the team members are all subscribed to that, so they get that in their email, so they know, what people are up to in terms of and new things that might be of interest. So let me see. So at this point, I want to show you something that is new. It's not quite live yet. It's actually, we plan on moving this out to the production site tonight, and that is the Ideas Marketplace. This is something that it's a concept that Eastern Region came up with, and we've been working with them for quite some time. And so the idea or the concept behind this is that they wanted a way for people to basically propose different ideas that are relevant to the Weather Service, and then have a way for that to be discussed, and then have ways to filter it based upon the popularity, how the ratings behind it. And so this is our development instance. So the ideas in here are not real ideas. It just was used for testing. But this is the way it manifests itself, and this is, you're going to see this this week out in production. And so in Eastern Region, we'll be sending out some notifications regarding it. But so the concept here is that you can basically come in here, add a new idea. The idea will then be, you'll give it a title, and so you can use this WYSIWYG editor to do whatever you want. You can attach images if you have an image that might convey it, and so okay. You can provide links. Let's say, for example, your idea is already associated with a project. Now, we're thinking that most likely an idea coming in isn't going to be tied to a particular project, but as the idea matures, it may gain traction, and so it might it might get to the point where the idea gets promoted, and then there are specific projects related to it, or it might be associated with a particular community or something else that you want to provide a link to. So you give it a name, a URL. You can attach documents, browse files locally from your system, and just upload those, and then you can categorize it with tags, so test, and then you can whatever else. And then you would save it. So at that point, so I'm going to go back. And so this is the one we just uploaded. So if you want to participate and be involved with the Ideas Marketplace within the Virtual Lab, what you can do is you can subscribe at the top level. Then anytime anyone uploads a new idea, you'll get an email basically giving some details like the title and the description of the idea, and then you can go directly out and take a look at it if you're interested. So subscribing at the top level basically lets you know anytime someone uploads a new idea, adds an idea here. Within each of the ideas, so if I was really interested in this idea, I would then subscribe to the individual idea. So I can subscribe here, and what that then does is anytime anyone posts a new thread, so the forum, there's a forum category is created with each new idea, and so then you have a means for discussing this idea and having multiple threads, or you can even create categories around it. So if I want to post a new thread, I would basically come in here, and our dev set's quite a bit slower than production. Test, thread, on test with VLab demo. Okay, so we can do this. You can attach images. So I'm going to just publish this. And then if someone was subscribed to the individual idea, they would then get an email and get notified about this. They could then subscribe or respond to the email directly, just like the other forums that we talked about with the National Blend of Models. So that's the idea. If you think it's a great idea, you can give it a high rating, and this is going to average it over time. And so that is the concept behind the ideas marketplace. And there are ways then to sort the information. So right now it's most recent first, but if I wanted to do most viewed, I could do that. That's looking at how many times people have actually clicked on it. And so that's going to do that. I can also sort it on the highest rated. And so that's going to look at, which one has the highest ratings. And then lastly, there's this table view too, which if you're not a big fan of the tabs, you can switch to this view and it gives a table. Okay, so that's Ideas Marketplace. So let me switch over and we'll touch on some of the other things. So we talked about ideas and the potential for them to move into projects. We're going to get into Redmine and the development services part in a moment, but before I do so, I want to show you the project registry and also science sharing. So at the top level within VirtualLab, there's this NOAA projects registry, and what this does is this is a tool that's NOAA-wide, and its intention is to give managers and the like the ability to, they're trying to look at the transition of projects from research to operations, and they have this readiness level, RL, that's from 1 to 9, 9 meaning that it's already in operations. And so, within NOAA, I guess there's been an issue with a lot of projects starting, but a lot of things, or many of them, never making it to operations. And so they want to kind of track that and get some visibility to that. So we developed this application, the projects registry, and if you have a project that you want the visibility at NOAA level, it can be added within here, and then the focus then is on where is it being transitioned to, what's its readiness level, do you have a planned or actual transition date. So there's a lot within there, and there are about 500 and some odd projects within this, and I believe it's going to be a National Weather Service directive that all the projects need to go into here as well. So anyway, that's the projects registry. Science sharing is a document library, and I think I mentioned that each community has its own document library. When documents get uploaded to the site, to VLab, they get scanned and indexed, so the content within them is there as well. One of the nice things too is that when you upload documents within the document library, you can come in here and you can actually view them first to see whether or not this is something that's of interest to you without having to actually download it from the site. So I can do that and come in here and say, okay, well, yeah, this is really interesting. I want to actually get a full copy of it. And so, and if you want to do that, then you would just click on here and click on download. You can comment on the documents themselves if you've got some feedback for the author. And so anyway, that is the document library, and like I said, everything is indexed. So when you do your search that I showed you, top level, over everything or over the community, it's going to look for not only the title, but also what's within the documents, and you'll find things that way. If you know that you're just doing a search over documents, you can do that within this search within the document, Science Sharing Document Library portlet, and you can just search it right from there. So if I want to search for things that mention tornado, you can do so, and it's going to highlight the areas of it. So anyway, okay. So let's move on. I'm going to do one more or two more things, and then I want to switch to Redmine so that we have time enough for questions. So let's take a look at the one-stop community, because I think that's an excellent example of how to structure, how you can structure. They've done a good job of structuring it. And so this is a community that's more based upon an organization. So this is tied with the science of technology and operations and procedures. So this community here, let me get rid of this so we don't see it. So they have everything you need to know about being part of OSTI. And so this group, so if you're a new hire, you can come in here. If you want to know travel type procedures, you can come in here. So basically anything and everything related to OSTI, they've done a great job of putting it all within this community, and then you can get to it. And it's my understanding that, I think that other groups within headquarters are planning on using this, or might be using this in the future as well, as a means to organize their information in one central location. So anyway, they've done a really good job of organizing their information. So that's OSTI. So let's switch over to development services real quick. So on the development services side, that's more oriented around projects that are, it's projects, so it doesn't necessarily need to be software development projects, but that's, it works really well in those situations. So let's take a look. So how do you first find out which projects are within VLab? So go to the development services page, and within here, we list out the VLab Redmine projects. Many of the projects are private. By default, projects are private, meaning that you have to be a member of them to be able to see them. And anything here with a lock on it means that it's a private community. So if you want to be get more information, you're going to have to click on this little image of the person, and it's going to then tell you who the point of contact is, and then you can mail them by clicking on the link. But again, this is very dynamic. It allows you to come in here and filter the content by just typing it in. So these are the AWIPS type projects. There are a lot of projects related to AWIPS because, as is mentioned, it's required that they go through the system. But I have to say, Virtual Lab collaboration or development services has taken off. It took off on its own. We did very little in the way of advertising or pushing, not pushing, but getting the word out, because it really meets a need that I don't believe the Weather Service or NOAA has provided infrastructure services to provide the level of services we're allowing or supporting. So anyway, if you're within here, so if I wanted to go to, I can come in and go to this particular, the AWIPS hydro configuration. That then, if it has that little link, it'll take you right to it. We're using Google authentication here as well. So as long as you're signed in, you'll be able to go transparently without having to log in. And so the way that Redmine, so this is Redmine, like I said, it's centered around projects. There are a lot of projects. It's up over 400 projects right now. And I recommend looking through them, perusing through them on the collaboration services within that portlet I was just showing you. But you can also come into here, if you click on projects at the top, it's going to show you any project that you have access to. So what you're going to see will not be as comprehensive as what I'm showing here because I'm an administrator, but what you will see is you're going to see any project that has been deemed public. Now, public is a little misleading because within VirtualLab, we, on the RedMine side, you have to be authenticated in order to see the projects. So there's no guest access. You have to be authenticated. So you basically have to have no credentials or be an external partner with an account. And so at that point, if it's public, users that are logged in will be able to see public repositories, and many of the AWIPS communities have been set up that way. So anyway, that's what's here. Any of the communities that you're actually a member of will be highlighted with a star like this. There's also a drop-down similar to My Projects to jump to a project, and this is going to list all the projects that you're actually a member of. It's not going to be the ones that are open or public, but it would be anyone that you're a member of. And so typically this is going to be a pretty small list of users or of projects. So let's dive into a project, and we'll show the elements of a project. So let's go to let me go to one of the specific. So I'll show this, but I'm not going to show the repository because it's quite, it's a huge repository. So within here you get the overview, and so as I think John mentioned, the projects are, there are two key concepts here. One is issue tracking. So this really can be used for project management, and it's valuable to you as a developer. It could be valuable to you as a requirements writer, someone writing requirements. It could be useful as a manager. There are lots of different use cases, but the important point is that you've got an overview of the project, the different the trackers. So it could be that you've got defects, tasks, code improvements. So there are lots of different things here. Who the members of the project are and their roles, and then any news that the project managers have created. Activity is going to show what's been going on with the project. So you can see today that there's been work on issues. That's what these are here. You can filter the contents. If I only wanted to see change sets, that's actually code changes being made. So if I do this, it's going to filter it down. So these are revisions. So those are actual code changes that have been put in there. And then, so that just is a quick, easy way to figure out, okay, what's actually going on within this project. Roadmap is if you have specific versions or releases, you can have a roadmap and then assign issues to that particular release. And then RedMine creates automatically this view within the roadmap. And we're using this within VirtualLab as well, so that if you want to go in, and I'll show you. So the VLab wiki we've put at the top. This has lots of guidance, but there's also this roadmap here, and it then is going to show you that, for example, 17.012, I mentioned that today or later tonight I'll be rolling out a bunch of updates to VLab. Well, if you want to know what those updates are, you can come here to the roadmap and get access to it. The VLab project that I'm looking at now is public, so anyone that logs in has access to this. So the issues that we have that we're working on are all listed here, and then there are a bunch of different filters on the right. This project has many more than most, but if I wanted to see all the issues, I can click on that. If I wanted to see issues that are my issues, I can only, my new issues or just my issues. So that's, there's a lot of different tools, and so you as a member can create custom queries too and save it just for yourself, so that if you want, there are all these filters that allow you to come in and filter over those issues. You can write new issues, and then it has tracking, so that it goes through a workflow. You assign the tickets. It's a very robust issue tracking system, similar to Track or Mantis or Jira or other systems if you've ever used that. Gantt charts are created for the issues. What this means is that some issues can be related to others. Some can have child issues associated with them. Some of them, let me see if we've got, well, we're running low on time, but there are ways to relate the issues to one another as well. So you can see within a particular, you can say that this one blocks another, very similar to like Microsoft Project. But the key here is that this is updated based upon updates to the tickets themselves. So as someone says, oh, this ticket's 50% done, it's going to be reflected within here. And so anyway, that's that. The only other thing I wanted to highlight is that, let me go to one of the communities that we have that actually has has repositories associated with it. So we can click on the repository view, and as John said, we support Subversion and Git. And so within this, you can come into here. This project, we have a number of different repositories. So we have some dealing with like the search technology, Jenkins, the portal, and then Redmine. And then within each of these, you can click on those, and then you can go to the particular branch. And then you can see the different commits that have been taking place, and also the references. So for example, and this is really important, and that is that you can reference within your commit message the issue IDs of issues that you're working on, so that you can ensure the integrity of the underlying repository. And it also is a very nice way of being able to click on this and be able to get directly to the issue that was related to it, and so find out all of that detail. And then the change that is linked here, so you can go in both directions. If I click on here, I can see all of the files that actually changed. So I think, let me make sure that I haven't missed anything significant. And I should say that there are lots of projects, like I said, over 400. And this is being used for many different things. If we go to the projects level, it's even being used by some of the regions and some of the WFOs within the region as a way to track issues at their office. So for example, if we go down here within under WFOs, within Central Region, there's the Central Region SUS, FSD, ILX, and then under Eastern Region, like LWX, what they've done, it's a good example in that they've actually broken it up so you can have a project and then have sub-projects under it. So they've broken up their ITO issues versus their SU or WCM under separate sub-projects, but they're all viewable here. So if I click on activity, it would show me the activity from the parent and all child projects. And this is a way that they're using VLab to track work that needs to be done at the office, and it works very well for them. So that's a possibility. And so I think that is it. Let me go back and touch on one thing that I didn't, and that is finding an expert. So if we go to the main page, there's some other things here, like finding an expert, VLab News. I didn't touch on that too. If you go, so let's first do find an expert. And this relies upon people going into their private pages and updating their profiles. But if, for example, you wanted to find people that were experts in tornado genesis, and you could do that search. Or if you wanted to find others within the Weather Service that are Java experts, you could do the search, and then it's going to list out people that have flagged themselves with that particular tag of Java, or mentioned it within their description. And so you have a private page, and you go to My Profile, or it's actually your public page. But from within here, you can click on here, edit your profile, to then give yourself a job title, provide details about yourself, and then provide tags that might be relevant for you describing yourself in the work environment. So anyway, we're working on also having a private page for you, which would have things like if any projects you might be involved with, tickets that are assigned to you, Redmine tickets, and then you know, the communities that you are a member of. Basically a page that has information that's relevant to you but not necessarily others. So we're working on that. And if we go back, so the other thing is under What's New, you can subscribe if you're interested to the VLab News, the communities, and development service projects. If you subscribe to that, you get an email once a day if there are any new updates. And you'll find out as new communities, new development service projects. And also, you know, when we make changes within VLab, that we don't update this often. It's only when important things get rolled out. And so anyway, you can get a sense for what's going on by doing this. If you don't want to get emails, don't subscribe, but just come to this page when you're interested. So I'm going to open it up to questions at this point. So go ahead and click on raise your hand if you've got any questions. Okay. So it looks like John Holzenbeck has a question. You've got your hand raised, so let me unmute you. So John, you should be unmuted now. So John Holzenbeck, do you have a question for us? Okay, so we didn't get any response there, so let me see if there are any others. Don't see any others there, and let me see if there are any actually any questions. Oh, you don't have a mic, sorry. Okay, well, if you've got a question, you can type it in, and then we can answer it that way. So any questions or comments? If we don't get any, I can show you one other area of VLab called Code Review or Garrett, and that's something that's available to. So I'm going to go ahead and show that real quick. And so, and then John Schattel, if you see anyone raise their hand, let me know, please. So one of the things that VLab offers are some, I call them more advanced capabilities. They're really important for projects, especially when when the code base is oftentimes, you know, sometimes you're new to revision control, so you're just using revision control for the first time, so that's great. Sometimes it's a project where you want to ensure that things making it into the code repository have been reviewed. And so we offer a service called Garrett for Git repositories that enables you, when your development team members are ready to push a change up to VLab, they basically commit it locally, and then they push the change up to VLab for review. And what that does then is it creates a review within the Garrett web interface, and So these are the reviews that I'm dealing with right now. And so I can come in here and I can then look at an individual review. And so what they've done is, so Jason Burks, who's on my team, he's submitted this particular review. He submitted it up, and then I can then come into here and look at the changes that he has made to the code. I can go into the code and make comments right here, like if I think that there's a flaw there, I can make a comment, or if I think, oh, it could be done better a different way, I can do that. It also allows me to not only do that, it allows me to come here and download the change, because typically the way that people work within VirtualLab, if they've got code repositories and such, is that they're working locally with Eclipse or some other IDE, or maybe even just on the file system using Vim or eGit or something, or one of the other editors. But at that point, they've got a copy of the repository. They can use this command to check out this particular change and then deploy it and run it locally. So it's not only that it's allowing them to review the code, the syntax of the code, but also test to see if it works the way it's supposed to work. And then based upon that, you can come in here and give the code, say, yeah, it looks good to me, but someone else must approve. If you were just a reviewer, you wouldn't have this +2 there saying it's approved. You could just provide feedback saying, yeah, it looks good to me. Or maybe there are issues with it, and then in that case you could give them a -1. And then Jason would be able to, like for example, what's happened here is that he checked it in a while ago, a bunch of other changes made its way in, and now there's a conflict, and that's why it says cannot merge. So I've requested of him to, could you please rebase this work based upon some other work that was done, and then he'll resubmit it, upload another patch set, so it'll come up here, it would be patch set 3, and then I can then look at the differences between version 2, for example, and version 3, which isn't there yet. So anyway, that's the code review component. It also ties into something called Jenkins, which is our continuous integration tool. And what that does is that when someone checks something in, it checks to see if the rules have been followed. And these rules can be defined at each project level. We're not requiring or enforcing anything project-wide. Now, the AWIPS program has a certain set of rules that they enforce throughout all their projects. But if you're asking for a new project or a new community, and I want to show you those forms, you can say, oh, well, I want Jenkins 2. And it can be set up so that like what we're doing here is we're checking when someone commits something, are they mentioning an issue, and is that issue in their pending list? That's important because you want that integrity and that trail along the lines of what's made it into the repository and has it been pushed to the right branch and things like that. So anyway, let's get into details, but that's possible. It's also possible to run unit tests. It's also possible to run checks on for code syntax checking. Jenkins can do that, and you can upload specific rules that you want to follow. So that way the code reviewers don't have to do that. That's something that can be done at the by a machine and the Jenkins application, which is well suited for that. So the very last thing is that if we come into here, you can come in and you can request a new community by clicking on this. There's also a new community request right there. Or if you have a development project or a project that you want to request, click on that. And so within each of these, you click on it. It's then going to give you a form. These forms were built using a forms builder. It's called Dynamic Data Lists within VirtualLab. And as a community owner, you have access to the form builder too. So it allows you to create these forms. There's workflow tied to it. So for example, it's pretty simple. You come in here, fill out the proposed name, the description, what type of community is it going to be, open, restricted, or private, and we highly recommend that you use open unless there's really a good reason not to. And then the justification, give us any categories and tags, and then who are going to be the owners. And like John said, the keys, you're handed over the keys. We set it up based upon a template, and then it's yours to modify as desired. And then you send it. When you click on send, that creates an email. It also goes into our workflow system, and this is something that you can utilize too. So I can come into here, go to my account, and then under my account, there's my workflow tasks. And so within there, as new things get assigned, I'll get that email notification, can come into here, and I can then assign that to myself or to someone else that has the same role. And then it gives you the ability to go in and actually look at, well, what did someone do? So, and for a community or project request, it's pretty straightforward. So the new project request is here, and similar sort of thing. We ask some additional information here as well. Do you want code review with Garrett? Did you want the continuous integration, the Jenkins that I mentioned? And then give us some approximate sizes and what you expect the Git repository or Subversion repository to be and your team size. This is just for our own sake, for capacity planning, and also if someone says, oh, I need 100 terabytes, we can say, okay, what are you planning to use revision control for? So that's a red flag that perhaps revision control isn't the right solution for what they're wanting to do. So, and then the last one is that if you go, there's the external partners, I mentioned that as well. And so the community external partners here. And if you've got a community that you are a owner for, and let's say, for example, you work a lot with NASA, or you work a lot with university partners, those are great examples of cases where a virtual lab community probably would make sense, and you want them to be involved as well. You want them to be able to contribute via forums and be able to contribute perhaps to the wiki and things like that. So you basically fill this out and send it in, and as long as they meet this criteria, it's a pretty no-brainer. The only thing we have to go through more review on is if it's someone from another country. But so anyway, that's if you've got a community and you have a bunch of external partners, you can follow this paradigm here, and then that basically gives you a spreadsheet that you can download, fill in the information, and then submit it back to us. And with that, I'll just remind everyone, are there any questions, John?
Yes, Ken, we have one from David Pascal. He wants to know about listservs, and he's asking is the listserv and VLab forum community, the VLab community forums, what's the difference between those, and are the VLab community forums going to replace listserv?
That's a good question. We had a similar question in the first demo that we gave, and we've been looking at that for quite a while. We would like to replace the listservs with the VLab forums because basically it's providing the same level of functionality but also more, in that you can do the attachments, and then you can also go to within the VLab and search through all of the, I guess the list servers do actually have a web page you can go to, but I find it a bit clunky. But you can go in there and do searches over them and such things like that. The roadblock, what we ran into though, was that within many of the listserv lists that exist today, like I think there's one for the AWIPS2 dev list, and then there were AWIPS info, and I'm trying to remember what the other ones, but there were a number, or I think there was a Warren Gen list too. There were a lot of external people outside of NOAA within those listservs, and that's potentially a problem. If they could be given an external partner account potentially if they are a collaborator, and that would meet the needs. But when we saw that, we kind of stopped. It's something we need to revisit because it really makes sense, like within the AWIPS community within VLab, that you should be able to go in there and have access to all that information that's being communicated over those listservs, serve accounts. And I've also thought about potentially, if we don't completely replace it, at least at a minimum, pulling in the traffic over the listserv and have it displayed within VLab so that you'd have a way of, when you do a search, it would also search over the listserv too. So you could potentially use the same capacity. The other thing that is missing from VLab lists that is part of the list server is the digest nodes. So I'm hoping that potentially in the future we could add those capabilities so that if you said, oh, I only want to get the traffic once a day in a digest type email, that would be nice. And then I think the last thing was the listserv supports being adding, joining or removing yourself from a listserv, and that's not possible with email today. So you actually have to go into the VLab to do that. But that's a more minor point in my mind. So that's a good question.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so
okay.
Time to wrap it up today.
Yep. So, well, thank you everyone for your time. Hopefully you found this useful. I'll just remind you that VLab.nsep.no.gov is the main site. If you have questions or help, click on the top, need help, and take a look there. And like John said, we are available to answer questions if the other mechanisms here don't help you. And there's, I guess I didn't mention that there is to the user's guide. So you'll want to take a look at that as well, because we put a fair amount of time into that. And you can do things like, as a community owner, we typically point people to this, but how do you add members to the community, and how do you modify the pages, and some of the things like that. So those are things that that are within the user's guide. Okay, I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you very much.
Thanks.